We have provided a list of tips on how you can achieve your best in class. One thing naturally is we have no system at this time, or we find it not necessary that students from this class announce, I have read this particular lecture. You cheat yourself out of this benefit if you were to do this. So we assume that you listen to the lectures and digest the content. If you understand some of them, is obviously clear because many of the lectures are related to the project, and the project will then clearly showcase if you have understood the material or not, as well as the papers that you need to be writing. One of the other things that we observed often is that you need to be setting aside enough undisturbed time. Our recommendation is not to listen to the lecture when you are doing something else. So some people seem to be doing multiple things at the same time, glance at the lecture, then do something else while chatting maybe with their friends on social media. So please do not do that. We recommend that you switch off Facebook, Twitter, and other distracting social media activities so that you can devote full attention to the lectures itself. Ask for help. Some people at the end of the class say, well, I didn't get any help. Well, when we then look up in Piazza, if you even ask for help and we find that you haven't asked for help, that wouldn't be fair to us. So I think what you should do is you should ask for help. The help should be asked publicly in the entire class, because not only we and the TAs can answer some of the questions, but also the students. This is part of your grade. We will be giving points for students that are helping other students out. And if you have a particular student that even has been very helpful as part of your project, we would like to hear from that. Do not procrastinate. That's the biggest problem that we see. Some people say this is such a loose structure of the class. We have this wonderful graph with these 3 tracks. I can start at any time and so forth. Therefore, we have actually introduced a 10% penalty for some of the homework so that we force you to get actually started and not procrastinate. And that actually typically helps. We used to not do this, but that resulted in that many students just 2 weeks before the end of the deadline of the project started their project. Naturally, their project failed. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that by midterm time you have an updated project and you already have worked and have committed in GitHub activities as part of your project. Another big mistake that we find is that you may take another class more serious. So you should make sure that you take this particular class as serious as you take any other class. Again, start your project within the first 4 weeks of the class. When you prepare your proposal, that counts as you start, because you start thinking about it. You may not have to let us know that you started this or give us the proposal, but you may want to work on this and internally build groups and make sure that you identify a topic. Be aware that the class is not based on textbooks or on a textbook. Some students may not be wanting to do such a class because they need a much more rigorous structure. If you like to have a rigorous structure and more guidance about when should I do what, you can contact us and we will be working with you establishing a schedule that potentially even includes your adjustments from work. Some online students have very tight schedules, and so we can work around that. Do not overestimate the technical abilities that you actually have. Some people are experts in certain things. You may already know DevOps and those kind of things. That's great. Just make sure that you can apply them properly. And you make sure you even contribute with your advanced knowledge to the class. Do not underestimate the time it takes to do the project. The project is 60% of your grade, so you will probably spend a lot of time on this project. And do not forget to include benchmarks in your project. So it's not just sufficient to say, so my project works and you can execute your project, but you also need to be conducting a benchmark. And that may be including comparing the runtime of your application on the 3 different clouds that we give you. One of the things is we have, for this class, we require that you write all your reports in LaTeX. And we do this out of purpose because in our previous class we observed that students that are using Word have considerably problems with their communication and with the quality of their reports. We found that most students that used Word in the other class have inferior reports produced. There are naturally exceptions to this, but LaTeX forces you to focus on the content rather than the structure of the document. However, it comes with the disadvantage of not being nicely being editable in a WYSIWYG form, but that's exactly the point why some of the Word documents are inferior, because the students are always looking into making the report more beautiful, adding line spacing to meet a two-page deadline, two-page limit of the paper. What we do is we just ignore all of this. Everybody will be using LaTeX, and this also allows us to create a proceeding with all content from all students included in this particular proceeding, and you can get access to this and benefit not only from your work but also from the work from others. We also found that using Windows as the operating system often results in that things are more difficult if you're not using, for example, Azure. And therefore, it's possibly easier if you were to just get Linux in, for example, a VirtualBox started. Another issue is you need to be having a computer that's up to date. Certainly, if you have a Chromebook, you can certainly log into our resources. But it may be easier if you have a powerful machine that maybe even have an SSD in your so that you can get quickly access to data. But it's not required, so we have you can log into our machines. Another thing is you need to be worrying about security rules and how do you do SSH. And one other big thing that we find is whenever you check something into GitHub, you need to be making sure that you're not using GitHub add dot to check in everything. You need to be checking in file by file initially, and if you have a new file, check in the new file. Why? In case you were to have a file maybe by accident in your directory that includes some password, you then have posted it in GitHub, and it's very difficult to remove files such as this in GitHub. Even if you say git rm, it is not removed because it's still in the history. So there is a significant amount of work needed in order to remove files from GitHub. We will naturally not do that for you. You will, in case you were to do a mistake, you will have to do this. And this is especially important if you were to, for example, get access to Amazon. Make sure that your password is not exposed through GitHub. Another important thing to look into in order for you to achieve your best is it is your work. Do not have the colleagues do your work. Sometimes that's challenging because you may have a colleague that wants to do all the work, but make sure that you, that's naturally great, but make sure that you contribute because, as said, if you realize that you have not checked in anything in Git, then we will be asking you what you have done. Do not underestimate the time it takes to do the actual deployments on the clouds and use the clouds. Not reading Piazza posts has been an issue in the past because there may be many posts, but we have an informational summary of the posts on top that typically answers a question, while the discussions underneath are used to formulate that particular answer. So hopefully you will only have to read the informational answer underneath the question in order to and go in GitHub in order to read the Piazza posts. One thing that we also noticed is do not just reply to a Piazza post via email. It is much better if you follow the link on click here and go to the Piazza post, because there could be already modifications being made to the answer that already address that particular question that is being looked at. Certainly, as I already pointed out, we are not going to be using Canvas, and that's it for the initial tips, and we will be giving additional tips to achieve your best while the class is going on, and we will be adding them here. As for the submission, we have a clear guidance on how to do the submission. We will be going into this in another lecture and explain this in very detail. We have some project ideas so that you can see what you may actually want to do in this particular class. We have an idea about a robot swarm, where you have 10,000 robots that need to be recharged, and you have a limited number of stations. And as part of the recharging, you need to be updating the software on these robots. So you could be simulating something like that. We have, for example, another project, and this is the author disambiguity project, where you have maybe a large-scale database of millions of entries. How can we create relationships between the authors? And what would be needed there is you would be having to install the software for this on all the nodes on which you conduct the calculation, and create a virtual cluster that actually executes that particular analysis. We have projects that allow you to contribute to Cloud Mesh. For example, we are very interested in a port of Cloud Mesh on Windows 10. So if you would like to do that, then you could be doing that kind of a project. You could be doing a port of Cloud Mesh to Azure or to Amazon Web Services, or improve them, because we already have an initial port for this. You could be adding new features to Cloud Mesh. This would be other projects that you can do. Certainly, some of you may want to use with Docker, so you can integrate Docker Swarm and Kubernetes as part of your projects. We have provided here guidelines about projects, so you will have to do a 4-page report if you're one student, and the more students are in your project, the more pages you will write, and the more clouds you need to be comparing against. For one student, it may be sufficient to use one cloud. For 2 students, you need to be 2 clouds. For 3 students, you need to be doing 3 clouds. If you're 2 students or 1 student and compare it against 3 clouds and benchmark your application on 3 clouds, that's naturally better for you. We have a particular report format that you need to be using as part of LaTeX. So we will be having another lecture on this, on how to do this. So, our code repositories will be here. The one is the class repository, as I have already introduced. And this other link is for the homework submission, and we will have another lecture on this. The learning outcomes are clearly stated here, and if you see that we forgot something, please let us know. We publish the academic integrity policy. Here we have our list of TAs and people that contributed to this class. And as a disclaimer at the end, it is normal that content on this web page is being updated. At no time we change actually the requirement, but we may be adding additional homework in case we identify that this would be leading to an improvement of understanding within the general class. This is not an additional requirement, but please understand, additional homework could be issued, and you should be aware of that. We will make a clear announcement when that is the case, and you have we had 2 options to release the class. We release the class on a weekly basis and not tell you what will come up, or release everything even in draft form, and we have decided to use a draft form, and so we will be updating the class as it goes. You only have to do the classes that are officially released, and the other ones are just available as draft. With this, I think we have introduced you to the class web page for the class. However, we also have a lessons directory, and the class will be referring to lessons. So if, for example, there is information that you would like to know about Linux, here we have elementary information about shell and what commands are there in bash. And if you see these exercises, these are non-graded exercises. You can do them and strengthen your knowledge in this area, but if you already know this, there's no point for me to assign you this exercise and grade it anyways. So this is essentially for self-study. So you can take a look at some of these lessons, and some may actually help you, like for example using SSH keys from Windows. And if you have better information about this, because I'm not a Windows expert and using SSH, and you have additions to this particular website, we can integrate that through your contribution to the website. If you have lessons that you would like to see here, please let us know. Then we will try to accommodate you and see if we can add these lessons or put pointers to lessons in. One of the lessons that you may want to take a look into is our writing documents session. And here we have, for example, the report format. We have a clear directory here in which the report is being structured. The only thing you have to do is copy this and call make. And you have here a description on how to do this. And as you see at the end, you will get a wonderfully formatted report out. And you just have to fill out the report.tex file with your content. And it makes it fairly easy for you to develop a very high quality looking report for our class. Any questions, please issue them on Piazza. And with this, I would like to sign off and see you in class next time.